It's time once again for another cold front.
Today we will talk about different types of severe weather.
We will also discuss how you can stay safe if the weather takes a turn for the worse.
The cold front starts right now.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Cold Front. I'm Jacob Van Horn.
And I'm Joie Bettenhausen.
Severe Weather Preparedness Week for Indiana was March 19th through the 25th, but severe weather can happen at any time of the year.
Severe thunderstorms, including tornadoes, are actually the most prevalent during the months of April, May, and June.
Now you mentioned that severe weather can happen at any time of the year, and I think this year is a prime example. From January through March, we've already had 465 tornadoes, and of that, 131 were confirmed in January, 4 times more than the monthly average of 35,
Right.
and the most since 1999.
That's
So
insane.
we're off to quite the start for 2017. Do you think it's gonna keep up, or you think we're gonna level off, stay at average, or is this gonna be an above average year?
I don't know. We'll have to see how this summer plays out, but definitely already starting off active with all of these tornado reports so far, and it's only April.
Yeah.
That's just insane.
So, in one of the previous cold fronts, Adam and I talked about the California drought and how the drought is really no longer there,
Right.
because of the jet coming in off the coast of California and bringing in that moisture. And I remember within the first couple of weeks of the semester, Dr. Bart Wolf mentioned something about he just had this feeling that it was going to be an active year, and he thought that maybe perhaps that jet off the southern coast of California would have some kind of some sort of impact on the severe weather this year. And so far, quite a few tornadoes. Unfortunately, also quite a few deaths as
Right.
well. 27 deaths so far this year. So I know in February, almost towards the beginning of March, there was some severe weather in central and northern Illinois, a few tornadoes.
Exactly.
And I know that had an impact on your family. So
Yes, it definitely did. It was February 28th. It was a Tuesday. I remember it perfectly. I just got out of class and we wanted to go to Dunkin' Donuts really quick. And all of a sudden we come back and I look at my phone and it's like there's a PDS tornado heading towards your house. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I immediately went in and turned on my TV, and there it was. It was just such an active day. Nobody really expected it. I remember being on the phone with my mother, and she was a school teacher at the time and was in class, so obviously she wasn't checking the weather. And I was just trying to keep my family up to date, you guys should definitely go in the basement. It was just such an interesting day, and keeping my father updated, and also for my friends who do go to school in different states, trying to warn their parents as well. So definitely an unusually active day for the middle of February.
And that day stands out to me because I went storm chasing
Right.
with a couple of fraternity brothers. And so we were south of Ottawa, Illinois, and actually saw a tornado form and touch down. So that's a big day for me because
Right.
that was the first tornado that I've actually been able to see the funnel and everything.
Awesome.
So definitely a day that will forever stick in my mind, as
Exactly.
well as afterwards, we drove through Ottawa,
Right.
Illinois, and just seeing the destruction. Now, I've seen tornado destruction before. When I was in kindergarten, we went through
Right.
Van Wert, Ohio, the Veterans Day tornado of 2002. So that was F4 damage. This one in Ottawa, Illinois was an EF3. So maybe not as strong, but the damage, regardless, it's still something to definitely see, and it's
Exactly.
really a life-changing experience.
It is, and you really don't truly understand the damage until you actually see it for yourself in person. We watch the Weather Channel all the time and different news reports, and you see videos of damage, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's devastating. But then you really don't truly experience the impact it has on people until you actually drive through and maybe pick up a piece of metal or some type of debris or someone's even clothing or remnants of things that they lost, and you're like, wow, this does actually impact the community and people in our area.
And so I think the other flip side to this year
Right.
is the tornadoes have been notoriously close to major cities. We had a decent-sized tornado go through the southern part of New Orleans and hit part of the NASA Center. I believe that was back in February. And actually one that a lot of people don't know is in early April, there was a tornado touchdown just south of Arlington National Cemetery.
Really?
Went across the river and into the National Mall in Washington, D.C. So the Washington Monument and whatnot. If you look online, there's videos from the National Park Service. So it was a EF0, very small tornado. But nonetheless, it's impressive that we have so many and they're hitting major cities.
Exactly, definitely something to watch out for.
So we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we take a look at warnings and safety in severe weather situations.
Plus, later on, we will discuss our own encounters with thunderstorms.
You're watching The Cold Front on VUTV Channel 15.
Well, I think that's all we need. Thank you so much for coming in. We'll be in touch.
Okay, this is it. Just shake his hand and walk out with your head held high. Don't mess this up. Thank you. Nailed it. Don't let a bad handshake get in the way of getting the job you want. Find out more at the Career Center.
Broadcasting sports, news, weather, and music, on air, online, and on campus. WVUR is my jam.
Welcome back to The Cold Front.
No matter where you are, it is always important to stay weather aware.
Having a way to receive warnings is necessary because severe weather can happen when you least expect it. Our very own Adam Sherwinski talks to millennials on campus about the effectiveness of tornado sirens.
It's that time of year again. Across the Midwest, temperatures are on the increase, but so is the threat of severe weather. National Weather Service offices across the United States are gearing up for severe weather season. This means not only forecasting for severe weather, but also getting the warning out to the public. Now, the tornado siren is the traditional method of disseminating tornado warnings issued by the National Weather Service. But with social media and the internet, there are different avenues of ways to get information about your local severe weather.
I have an app on my phone that I can enable severe weather alerts. So I have that, and it just sends a little notification to your phone.
Personally, I generally get it mixed from online or applications, social media like Facebook. I see updates come across.
It seems that students have chosen the more modern route when it comes to getting their severe weather alerts.
I use that because it's easier than like checking, online or something, and you get it right away when there's a watch listed for your area.
Students haven't totally abandoned the tornado siren for more modern methods. In fact, they still find it to be fairly useful despite some of its flaws.
But we do hear them if need be. They're a little ways away, but are they right next to us like here at school? No, but we do hear them, I guess, in case something were to happen.
If you're close to it, I think it's probably beneficial to you because you can hear it well, or if you're farther away from the siren, it's probably harder to hear.
While it isn't perfect, it still remains an important source for getting the warning out, even among those who prefer social media and weather apps.
Is there anything better, though? I mean, if I'm asleep, I'm not using my phone clearly, so while it might be inefficient, it still might be better at a nighttime setting than an application where I'm not going to be using it clearly.
Reporting for VUTV, I'm Storm Shield meteorologist Adam Sherwinski.
Now, I think one of the most important things to remember about tornado sirens is that they were not designed to alert you if you're inside. They're more of an outdoor resource if you're outside landscaping or playing games or whatever. That's what they're used for. If you're indoors, obviously you want to turn on the TV, take shelter in your basement, or have your cell phone. Now that they do the alerts on the cell phone towers, that's a little bit nicer. So.
Another interesting thing is also, finding out the research behind whether or not National Weather Service should issue a warning out for more time, sooner, and it's actually ineffective to have a warning issued for a longer period of time than for a shorter period of time, because people think, it's past, but actually they could come out right in the middle of a storm from a basement, which is so interesting to figure out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. I guess another interesting aspect about severe weather warnings, which I guess I kind of knew about but didn't really understand until last year. So last August, there was a very unexpected little outbreak across Indiana. So it was part of the Kokomo tornado.
Right.
And then there was one that went through Woodburn, Indiana, which is a couple miles to the north of my house, actually. So an EF3 went through there. And so it was interesting because I was tracking it, and they had tornado warnings out for it, and it remained on the ground through northwest Ohio. And as it was getting closer to Archbold, Ohio, rather than a tornado warning for a tornado on the ground, they actually issued a tornado emergency.
Wow.
And so I kind of asked Dr. Bart Wolf and just asked, what is a tornado warning versus a tornado emergency? And so essentially what it boils down to is how large of an impact is it going to have? Tornado warning, it might be in the open countryside even though there's a tornado on the ground. However, Archbold, Ohio is a big enough town with several thousand residents where they decided that, it's a large enough and destructive enough tornado that people need to take this a lot more seriously. So then from time to time, they'll issue the tornado emergencies, which is definitely something interesting.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't really know that they had those.
Right.
And I know that you've taken nowcasting.
Yeah. I don't think he ever mentioned that.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to when they first had tornado warnings, they had tornado alerts as well.
Okay.
And then they kind of shied away from that and just had the warnings. But now they have tornado emergencies. So tornado warnings are always very serious, but if you find yourself under a tornado emergency, extremely dangerous situation. So
Exactly.
make sure you take shelter.
And I can see how that could also get confused by the general public too, because obviously a warning, they might think that's more severe than an emergency, but now I know I can help describe that if that ever becomes an issue.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, usually it's for large destructive tornadoes. So I know in the past, Tuscaloosa, Joplin, Missouri, events like that are your typical tornado emergency, just because you have large cities with thousands of people that are in the path of the storm that's producing a large tornado. So, I mean, it may not seem that big to us. It might be a EF2, EF3, so it's not like it's a EF4, EF5, but at the same point, it's going to cause quite a bit of damage. So we're going to take another quick commercial break, but when we come back, we're discussing our own experiences with severe weather.
Plus a look at the forecast for the weekend.
You won't want to miss it.
Good morning, Valparaiso University. What's a better way to start your day than with a new jam? And WVUR has just what you need.
But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all? And if you close your eyes, does it... If Daniel won't change your mind, baby, right.
Broadcasting sports, news, weather, and music on air, online, and on campus. WVUR is my
Thanks
jam.
for staying tuned. As meteorologists, we want to be sure everyone is safe during severe weather events.
But we also need to make sure we take precautions if we are out observing the weather.
So one of the ways that we take these precautions when we observe the weather is to make sure that we do everything in a safe way, right? So we have organizations like VUSIT, or we have the convective field study class that Bart Wolf teaches every summer. And so it's ways to, really we learn how to go out and observe storms from a very safe way. You know, couple miles away, we like to keep our distance. So like the one that I observed February 28th, south of Ottawa, Illinois, you know, we were definitely like not in any dangerous situation. We were a couple of miles to the southeast, so we were in a good spot where we could view the tornado, but we weren't also going to be in a dangerous spot. So it's organizations like that that really help, you know, teach us how to chase safely, unlike some of these other guys that you see on TV, like Reed Timmer, who try to intercept tornadoes. You know, probably not the smartest thing ever.
Right, and especially Dr. Wolf, he definitely cares about the student's safety, but also wants to learn about what we talk about in the classroom, also in the field. So I know when I went on the convective field study over this past summer, it was really like interesting to be able to take what we learned in the classroom and be able to apply that in the field using radar and learning things about that and how to figure out which ingredients actually create these storms, and also observing the tornadoes and then taking what we learned and bringing it back to the classroom. And what was really interesting is we saw 4 tornadoes in 4 days. Super interesting. When we first went out there, we were over a ridge and it was chilly, but like it was really sunny and we weren't going to see anything, and then all of a sudden things just popped and we had 4 tornadoes. So life-changing, and definitely something I want to continue to do.
And that's kind of, I'm a little disappointed that I'm not able to go on the storm chase this summer because I'm taking Bart's nowcasting class right now. And you know, we do the forecasting exercises for the, you know, you have a half hour to dirty sketch all the maps and whatnot and get ready. And I absolutely love that. You know, I haven't done too terrible at them either.
That's good.
So I love it, and I'm a little bit disappointed that I'm not able to do that this summer. Because it's kind of nice when you have the historical cases, because you do that and then you get the answer right away. Whereas, you know, during the summer it's a little bit more challenging because you can, you know, sketch up the maps or whatnot, but you don't know if there's actually going to be anything or not. So it's more of a, you're trying to position yourself if something happens. So it's a little bit of a different game, but I'm sure just as fun.
Yeah, no, it's definitely similar too, because like we don't necessarily do map sketching, but you're also trying to figure out, are we going to get storms today? And where do we have to go to see those storms? So I know like they would split up each room into doing a weather discussion for that day. So you got hands-on experience actually giving a weather discussion to the entire chase group. And so that was definitely a learning experience for me because I've never done it before with just one other person. So we got to look through all of the models and all of what NWS was putting out, and we kind of just took what we had and was like, okay, where do we think something is gonna happen? Do we know what something might happen? Where do we want to position ourselves? And luckily, those 4 times we were in great positions, except for blowing the flat tire that we did on the first day, right in front of a tornado.
So those tornadoes that you saw over the convective field study last year, were those the first tornadoes that you've ever seen?
Those actually were not. The first tornado I ever saw, I was 9 years old, and I was at my dad's house, and I wasn't super close, so it wasn't like we were in like a dangerous situation, but it was like between some houses. But this was the first time I actually saw some tornadoes like only a few miles away. It was breathtaking.
Yeah, like I said, the Ottawa tornado for
Right.
me was like the first one where I could see the funnel and everything, and it was really cool to see. You know, even though it was a deadly tornado, which is really sad, but definitely not my first run-in with tornadoes. There's
Okay.
been tornado damage, you know,
Right.
all over where I live. So I've been through plenty of storms that have caused tornadoes, but I've never actually seen that. And part of that is because of we're so far east that a
Right.
lot of the tornadoes, especially in northeast Indiana, are typically rain wrapped. So
Right.
you don't get the nice supercell tornadoes in northeast Indiana like you'll see in Kansas and Oklahoma.
Exactly. Nothing beats that.
Yeah. Well, one last commercial break before we get to the forecast for the weekend and week ahead.
Stay tuned.
Valparaiso University, where passion meets purpose.
Welcome back to the cold front. Now you might be asking yourself, why is Jake smiling so big? He seems awfully excited. That's because we have new graphics. Yes, here at VUTV over the past semester, I've been working on these graphics. So these are going to be implemented over the next, hopefully at least next school year. So as we look currently, 48 degrees in Valparaiso. Out on I-65, you can see that sunshine and traffic is moving well. As you can see on national radar behind me, we had the system move off into the northeast. That affected us yesterday. And you can see it kind of trails back into the central U.S. We have that front, and it really is evident once we get to temperatures. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here on the Midwest. You can see we have some shower activity down to the south. We're looking at Indianapolis back to St. Louis along I-70. But that should stay to our south as we progress through. Now, I mentioned temperatures. We are quite a bit cooler than what we were just a couple of days before. We have that north wind coming off Lake Michigan right now, and so that's keeping us cool here in Valparaiso, 48 degrees in fact. Grand Rapids at 47, Fort Wayne at 51. Now, if you'll notice back off to the northwest of us, La Crosse is at 64, Des Moines, Iowa at 61. That warm air is going to be making its way into our area. But as we look at the 24-hour temp change, just to put this into perspective, Fort Wayne's 22 degrees cooler now than it was this time yesterday. Valpo coming in at 24 degrees cooler. But like I mentioned, off to the northwest, La Crosse, Wisconsin, just updated, 12 degrees warmer right now than this time yesterday. Now as we go ahead and look at future radar, like I mentioned, that rain stays off to the south, so you're looking I-70 south. We're going to be dealing with some cloud cover here in Valpo. by the time we get into Saturday afternoon, you see some of that cloud cover dissipate. Central Indiana and Illinois will be dealing with that as well. So as we look at the forecast for tonight, we're going to see a low of 37 degrees, mostly cloudy skies, and we're going to be cool because of that north wind coming off the lake between 10 and 20 miles per hour. As we look at tomorrow, a high of 51, partly sunny skies, winds out of the northeast at 10 to 15 miles per hour. And as we go ahead and look at the 7-day forecast, you can see we're going to be cool over the next couple of days. Maybe a slight warm up, 55 for Saturday, 63 for Sunday. Monday we're getting up to 70, 73 for Tuesday. We're going to see some storms on Tuesday, and then we're going to see another system come through and kind of drop off the temps again. So overall, not too terrible of a forecast. We're gonna see some warmer temps.
That's good. I know
maybe even a few thunderstorms. So
we were definitely lucky with those past few warm days.
yes, we absolutely were. You're not joking. So real quick, I want to take some time out of the cold front to introduce you to VUTV, new Assistant Weather Director Joie Bettenhausen. So she will be taking over my position as we move forward. And then Sabrina Bates will be taking over Adam's job. You will see those two anchoring the cold front next week. So congratulations,
Thank you.
Joy.
Thank you.
What are you doing this summer? Do you have any internships or any plans over the summer?
Yeah, I will definitely be interning at WCIA 3 in Champaign, Illinois. So I'm super excited to be able to finally get some work experience within the field, and also I will be working at Burlington Coat Factory when I'm not at the internship. So definitely going to be a busy summer, but I'm super excited.
Awesome. Well, that just about does it for this week's episode of The Cold Front. Fridays at 4 this semester.
And stay up to date on the latest news here on campus and around the country by following VUTV on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
I'm Jake.
And I'm Joy.
Have a great weekend, Valpo.